guys, welcome to Apsara Conference 2021. We will show you various innovations at our Horizon program. Hi, I'm Liana. Can you introduce yourself and your company to everyone, please?
Hi, I'm Jeff. I'm from Shanghai Future Mind. We are a technological company, and we mainly focus on the smart robot for the sports field, especially for table tennis. So this time we bring two signature product to the exhibition, and just right back here. Yeah.
Can you show us to here?
Yeah, sure. Just follow me. So this is M1, as known as the coach pong for ping pong. Yeah. So this is the world first humanoid robot. We can see that it has the left arm and the right arm. So the function of these two arms, for that one is to launching the ball, and to the right arm, then the right arm launch the ball, hit the ball to the players. So this is our special point for this robot. Yeah.
Can we see how it works?
Yeah, sure.
Do you want to know more details about this product? Please check the online part.
Hi everyone, welcome to Apsara Horizon, a dialogue segment of Alibaba Group's Apsara conference that brings together Asia's cutting-edge technologies. We'll be in conversation with our esteemed guests to hear more about their stories as well as perspectives on their challenges, opportunities, and future of their field. If this is your first time tuning in, the Alibaba Group's Apsara conference is the company's flagship tech conference. Apsara was first held in 2009 and has grown to receive both local and international attention. While some of you are tuning in virtually, the conference is actually ongoing live in person in Hangzhou this year. There are more than 100 speeches and panels with China's key thought leaders, experts, and decision makers weighing in on all things tech. Many new innovations and solutions will also be making their debut at the conference, so we're really excited to learn and hear from all the attendees and guests. If you would like to learn more and check out the conference virtually, we have more links and details in the description box below. Moving on to the conversation for today, we'll be talking about living with robotics. Let me first introduce our guests. We have Dr. Song Bo, who's the Chief Scientist of Future Mind.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Bo Song, and I'm a professor in the Hefei Institute of Intelligent Machine, Chinese Academy of Science, and I joined the Future Mind, company idea 2020, and serve as the scientist in chief and in charge of leading the R&D department to do some research on the robotics and for the next generation of robotics, I think. So my research interest is the automation and control and computer vision, and our Future Mind company is. Our goal is to develop a robot called, trico robots. It's trico means three, co and this coexisting, cooperative, and cognitive, robotics. So currently we are just aiming at the sport area, like the table tennis area, right? So our product has been widely, used, served in the national team of China, the sport club, and the K-12 education, trying to increase the, the learning speed or the learning rate of the player, of the table tennis, just by the, customized training. I mean, individually, to different people, and by means of the combination of artificial intelligence and the robotics. So that's what we're doing right now. Yes, thank you.
And we have Dr. Wong Choon Yue, the founder and director of MAJU Robotics.
All right, so thanks for having me here. Really, it's my pleasure to be here. So my name is Wong Choon Yue. I'm a director of MAJU Robotics in Singapore. Right, so we are a spin-off robotics company based on our work on Edgar the robot. So this is a humanoid robot that was launched in 2015, thereabouts. What we do now is that we make robots for public settings, like in malls and offices. So basically, we make robots that people expected to come into contact with on a daily basis.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. And I think, of course, both guests, you guys have mentioned that you guys focus on robots that interact with different areas of a person's life, right? For Dr. Song, it's sports. And for Dr. Wong, it's, maybe retail or entertainment experiences. Could you share with us what value you think robots bring to each of your fields? And maybe also share with us what first interested you about this in the first place? Maybe Dr. Song, you can start this time.
Okay, so I think, because we are in the area of sport, right? So, and also we are focused on the training, the training in the sport. So we're talking about this, sport and the exercise training scenario. So I think the first important thing is who to teach. And the second one is teach what, right? So currently I think in the worldwide, the coach and teachers, in the sport area is always needed for the gym and the primary school and so forth. So actually we don't have too many coaches, to teach. So that's the truth, right? And but in China, there's an increasing trends, of the population would like to spend more time on the sport exercise, right? And also it's our national policy to encourage people to do that, right? To have daily access. So in this case, so we may need a robot to assist, somehow replace the coach. But I promise, replace the coach is the last thing I want to happen, So we want first just assist the coach. So the second thing is we have the robot, right? To act like a coach, but what to teach? People are different, right? Someone may move fast while someone may move slow, but maybe have more powerful, right, action. So in this case, we have to teach adaptively according to the behavior and the learning status of different people. So in this case, we may need some, hardwares and algorithms to evaluate the performance of the player first, and then decide what to learn, right? And what is the, the weakness right now and how to improve it, right? The next step. So our future mind is trying to solve about this problem simultaneously. That's why we not only have the robot, we also have the Hawkeye system, right? To judge the player's performance. And then our artificial intelligence algorithm can decide what to teach according to this performance, right? And the table tennis robot we call the pong ball, right? Like the M1, so can begin to serving the ball and trying to playing with you and to enhance the skill or the technique. So the goal is to help both the coach and the player to learn the playing technique faster. So that's what we're doing right now. Yeah. Thank you.
Nice. So that's really to complement the entire training process, and it seems like also maybe inculcate some data-driven training systems and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Let me make one, another point. That is, we want to close the loop of the training. Close the loop, because we want to monitor what's the performance and then decide what to teach next. So it's a closed loop. You can do some, optimization all the time. That's a way why we can teach people, faster than the regular, coaching system.
Right. Right. That sounds really interesting. Dr. Wong, what about you? How did MAJU Robotics and Edgar come about?
This this is a rather boring story, so I must say this in advance, right? So we didn't set out with the goal of, wow, we want to create an amazing humanoid robot to wow people with. So prior to running MAJU Robotics, I was actually a researcher in Singapore at the Nanyang Technological University. So it was my job to explore how robots that were shaped like humans can be used in training scenarios. So we don't do sports like Dr. Song does, right? So what we do is that we create very lifelike, real life simulators for people, for example, for policemen, right? To run simulations for them to interact with people with whom they are unfamiliar. So maybe a peacekeeper, for example, is deployed overseas into a space and a culture that he or she is not familiar with, right? So we use robots like this to simulate that interaction. Yeah. So these are just one. This is just one possible scenario. And after we created Edgar as a prototype to early stage prototype to sort of do this, we got a lot of requests from the public to bring Edgar to their events, public events here and there. And subsequently, the word grew to the point where it started to affect my other areas of research. And I thought, this is an interesting phenomenon that's happening. So we incorporated the company, and we continued to maintain Edgar from maybe 2014, 2015 up to this point. And I think our highlight was in 2017, where we were on the Singapore National Day Parade. So this was televised to the whole country. So this was a particularly interesting point in our early our early time at this company. Yeah.
Nice, very, very interesting. I think it's there's always in a way a bit of novelty, right? Especially when we see more humanoid robots, right? It's always a bit like, wow, what can they do? What is it like to interact with them? And I see that both of Dr. Song and Dr. Wong, both of the robots that you guys are working on and the application scenarios, they're actually quite social, right? Like you mentioned, table tennis is the national sport and played across China, and Edgar is of course designed to behave and interact directly with people. How do you think robotic technology adds a new dimension to social interaction? And I also, beyond the novelty, do you think people are becoming increasingly receptive to interacting with robots in more common settings?
Right. Okay. Sure. So I think in terms of application scenarios that are social, the present sentiment is one of curiosity and novelty, because people don't usually consider automation and social interaction to go together, right? So the traditional view of robots has been there, that they are very rigid and very predictable in behavior, and so are unsuitable for social interactions, which are usually spontaneous and sometimes even chaotic. So these conflicting aspects are interesting, and naturally people are intrigued. And I think this new manner of interaction is multidimensional, because it not only involves speech and video imagery, like what we are doing now, right? But also as well as physical presence, physical touch, and gesture. So this is very enriching, right? So it will be especially interesting to see how robots can replicate these highly nuanced aspects of traditional social interaction. I think also another interesting aspect of robot-mediated social interaction is that robots do not have moods, right? Nor are they fatigued in the biological sense, right? So they can repeatedly perform the desired social interaction without stress, without decrease in quality. And this makes robots very useful for tasks where the workers are repeatedly experiencing multiple and yet very similar social interactions, right? So I think we can all admit that if we are made to say the same things over and over again, it can be a little bit frustrating for us, right? So this would be very good for domains such as education, healthcare, of course, in retail, yeah. And regarding people getting increasingly receptive to interacting with robots, yes, I think definitely. Previously, there was some very strong opposition, especially from workers who feared getting replaced, as well as people who were cautioning against doomsday scenario that's precipitated by robots. Hollywood has a lot to do with that, right? So, but I think as robots are slowly and gradually encountered by people on a daily basis in very benign environments, such as in hotels, offices, restaurants, right? These spaces, the awareness and acceptance will begin to increase, and people will start seeing the benefits to coexisting and utilizing robots.
Right. So, I mean, in a way, it's always a bit of like a gradual process of people getting
That's right.
comfortable to something a little bit more unfamiliar and what we thought was rigid, like you mentioned. Awesome. Dr. Song, what about you?
Okay, so I think the robots are receptive in different applications. It mainly depends on two things. The first one is the robot itself should be a product, right? That's why we found a company, right? It's a product. So the robot should solve the problem that can create the value for the customer, right? That's the reason why people buy it. It can create the value, right? The kind of investment, right? So, and the second is the user in the scene should have a convenient and friendly, interaction with the robot. So it's, I think it's totally two things, right? People will buy it and then use it friendly. I think it's two things. So I think with the development of the artificial intelligence, the sensing and also the maybe the sensing control and other robotics techniques, current robots can understand the environment and the human intentions better than before. So it can interact with people, from the speech, the motion, and some other feedbacks. So from the technical point, if we want to have a good interaction, the only thing we have to do is to speak the same language, right? Because people, we can communicate, that is, we can speak the same language, just like this, conversation, right? We can speak English to communicate with others. So we must make the robot and the human to speak the same language, but it's not, literally language. It could be some other thing, right? It would be the gesture or some other things. So, but the thing is, it must take some time to do that, because it's kind of language you have to learn, right? Just like I didn't speak English, when I was a child. I just speak Chinese, but there's no way to communicate with, the people all over the world. So I spent maybe more than 10 years, right, to study how to learn English. So we don't like, to make the robot take too much time to understand what's the environment and how to interact. And also we don't like the people, they just buy something like a cell phone, right? We can just use it directly. Not only we have a course to teach you how to use a cell phone, right? In that case, we can never, sell one single, cell phone to the customer. So I think that's the point. So we have to find a way to make the robot and the human to speak the same language, right? And also that's the future direction, of the interaction. And also, the robot, it should also, it's a tool. The robot is a tool. It's just like a car, right? So I should assist its customer. For example, the owner of the club, we are talking back to the, spot, scenario. If you sell the robot to an owner of a club or the coach, and can you save the problem of the costing, the management, and other, problem experienced by the, we call the B-side owner, right? So, and in the process of marketing development or the expansion, I think at the same time, the robot become more intelligent and make the user easy to use and like to play, and that can give more market results, to the owner of the club. So I think all of these things, the technique and the market, all of them make it, more acceptable in the future scenario. So that's my point.
Yeah, I think that's it's the point you brought up about speaking the same language is actually very interesting. I think that's a very different way, I guess, putting it in a different way to think about human and robot interaction, right? Finding a commonality or for them to interact over. I think we can think of it as, like you mentioned, learning a different language for us so that we can speak to someone from a different place. So I just found that very relatable actually. And I think for me, that also makes robots slightly less intimidating sometimes. But yeah, I think after hearing all of that, I would also like to ask, what are some of the current challenges that you guys face, either business-wise, be it market expansion, education, or have there been any sort of like technological hurdles that you guys are looking to overcome?
Well, definitely there are multiple challenges when it comes to building robots, right? So I think it's very interesting what Dr. Song has just mentioned, right? He was talking about maybe learning a new language. So it's also important for robots to learn how to interact with people, like he said. So this is one of the key challenges, right? Getting robots to recognize our intention. So, previously we would have the digital world recognize what we want through the use of buttons like keyboards, right? But now we are increasingly exploring the possibility of using speech or even with bodily gestures, right? So this is not an exact science, right? So the science of machine learning is yes, it's advanced tremendously in the past few years, but robots still have difficulty recognizing speech from various types of languages in different environments, because we don't just speak in very quiet sound booths. We speak in noisy environments, like at a train station, for example, in public at the mall, right? So these are naturally very noisy environments, and robots have difficulty recognizing speech and intention when there's so much disturbance. And this can lead to frustration for users, right? So it's certainly a technological challenge that needs to be overcome, right? But having said that, that doesn't mean that robots are unfeasible, right? We still have ways to interact with robots besides through speech, right? And I would say more recently, personally, I think one of the challenges is the disruption to supply chain caused by the pandemic, right? So we ship a lot of parts in from all over the world. So the disruption has certainly caused a significant delay. And robots require a lot of hardware. So it takes a lot of time to build a robot nowadays. Yeah.
Right. Understand. So it sounds like there's always room for refinement in terms of the receptiveness of robots and things like that. And of course, you have real life situations that can affect the whole logistics to the entire affair. Awesome. Dr. Song, what do you think?
So I strongly agree with what the Dr. Huang on the side is two things. I think it's two things. First one is we're talking about if we're talking about the technique, right? Although there's very fast development of the artificial intelligence, the deep learning and deep reinforcement learning, right? There's a really useful technique. But if we are use them to solve the robotic problems, not always work. To be honest, it's not always work, because most of the time the robot working in an unstructured environment. So things change, right? The color, the texture, and the shape of the object always change. So I think we should find a way, to get better understanding about what people's thinking in the interaction scenario, right? So we can do something from like the speech or the gestures or motion. What we are doing is we never use speech, because in the sport court, right, it's just motion, right, or action. So we trying to tell difference, between first doing some classification task, right, to make the different technique to tell the difference from different technique of the table tennis. And also, we also try to predict the motion of the people, right? As first is what you are doing currently, and next step is what are you going to do next, right? First one is the estimate, trying to do the classification of current action, and then predict what you are going to do. So that's what we're doing, trying to find the intention of the people. So I think it's a hard work, it should be, involved by more scientists or engineer, a lot of people to solve this problem. But I think it's a very common problem, in the future, in the robotics area. If we're talking about there's the future society is going to be the robot and people work together, live together, right? So we have to solve this problem. So that's the great challenge in the technique. And the second one I'd like to tell is about the marketing. So because we're, someone saying, okay, you are doing a very quite narrow, scenario, right? The table tennis and teaching. But actually, the real challenge is the diversity of the requirement of the application, scenario, because different people have different requirement. For example, at the beginning, I think at the year of 2019, our company early product was aiming to the application of family entertainment and some professional clubs, right? It's just facing to that kind of customer. But the market changed very fast this year, because at the middle of this year, our national policy of something like is the burden of the primary school student, we know as the double reduction, right? It's a 双减, right? We call it 双减. It's a good thing. I think it's a good thing, Just make the, the child have more spare time, right? To doing physics. I think that's really good, right? This to doing the sport. But the thing is, there's not too much coach right there, right? Right, there's not too much co-teacher right there. So, and also for the student, some students play for fun, but some students play for winning, right? To be athletes. So they are totally different, goal. And so, the coaches, the referees, and some other things, are needed in different scenarios. So, the future mind, we're working very hard to provide a system solution for different scenarios, but the scenario is, it's too many of them. So we have to find a way, to have some, common technique can solve most of the problem of all the scenario, and then, customize the technique to specific scenario. So let me give you an example. So if we are talking about teaching table tennis, right? They are quite different in and out of school. So if a coach in a primary school, they probably teach 30 students, right, within 45 minutes, but that's pretty hard. So that's really emphasize on the interest and some kind of scale within a limit time. But outside school, for example, in the sport club, it emphasizes the professional skill training, right? So the logic of the interaction should be analyzed deeply for different scenario, and the corresponding our robotic system should be changed and customized and development. And that's the biggest challenge for us, right? It's because the market grows very faster than our expected. So, but that's a good thing. I think people need it, right? So that's a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I think it makes me think about how actually I think as a user, coming from a user perspective, we also have to understand that, these robots, even though these are robots and we assume that robots always get everything right 100%, right? But that's actually not the case. Again, in terms of interacting and engaging with maybe another sentient being by programming, right? There's always going to be some form of dissonance. So it's also, I guess it's also a matter of maybe user education in terms of how users should learn how to interact with the robots as well, rather than just robots also interacting solely with, for placing the focus on for robots to solely interact with a user. So I think that whole relationship is quite, the dynamic of that whole relationship is quite interesting.
Yeah, but the last thing will happen is to let the user to use, to learn how to use
Learn how to,
that
yeah.
right? In that case, no one's gonna buy it. So we just want to the robot because smarter, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. For
Recognize
sure.
the,
For
the
sure.
intention of the human first, I think.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, we always have to take that into consideration. I think just to, a couple last questions. How do you think, robotic solutions will continue to affect your field? To what extent do you think robots will maybe replace or assist human labor? And how do you see this synergistic relationship playing out? Will robots become an assistant, or will they sort of, remain as like a servant kind of thing? Maybe Dr. Wong, let's hear what you think.
Sure. So at this point in time, I would say that it is definitely a very exciting period, simply because there are so many ways of combining new technologies in computing, in sensing, in actuation, right? All these things, right? So all these various aspects are very closely related to robotics, and that really robotics is just about finding various ways to utilize these new technologies, and there are infinite possibilities, right? And so many people are contributing to this field now. So it's just about almost every day that we see something new in the domain of robotics. So this really is a very interesting period, and I think as more robots are being created, and as people interact with robots more, we definitely will find better ways to interact with robots. So it's, we need to make robots better. And people kind of, like we were talking about just now, people have to evolve their behavior when it comes to interacting with robots, so that we can find better ways for robots to serve humans, right? So I think pretty soon robots will be ubiquitous in industries like in retail, in hospitality, healthcare, and many other domains. And as for replacing human labor, that's always a big concern. But well, my response will be somewhat biased because I make robots, right? So I'm not going to say that, robots will replace human labor, but I think instead of replace, it will change, right? It will change certain aspects. So certainly some portions of human labor, some tasks will be replaced and performed by robots. I'm not going to say that the laborers themselves, the workers themselves are going to be replaced entirely, but their jobs are going to evolve and change, right? So this is the benefit of robots. They can make our jobs less fatiguing and allow humans to perhaps spend time more meaningfully, to take better care of ourselves and people whom we love, right? And and so finally, for this mutually beneficial symbiotic relationship that you were talking about, so I'm not sure how robots will perceive benefit. So right now it seems like it's pretty much a one-sided affair that robots will serve us, right? But I suppose that as robots transform the nature of our work, we may see a large portion of the human workforce dedicated to creating newer, more capable robots. While robots, in turn, the robots that we create will make the work of creating even more robots safer, more comfortable, and more meaningful. So in that sense, perhaps we can view it as a mutually beneficial relationship.
Nice. I think I really agree with you on the point of for us as humans also to evolve in our behavior. And like you mentioned, it's maybe not so much a question of entire replacement of the human workforce, but maybe more of learning different skills, learning how to work the robots instead of learning how to work producing the product or things like that, right?
That's right.
Dr. Song, what do you think?
So yes, that's a really good question. If we're talking about the robot, fully replace the labor of the humans. First, I don't think that's a good way, to do that in modern society, right? Just like different people have different jobs, right? So the second one is, if we're talking about these things from the technique, so it's going to be a really long way to go, because the robot itself is a multidisciplinary, area. Right? We have the mechanics to make and also the actuation to make the robot move, and also the power system, right? We have the more powerful power system, and also the control algorithm, the sensing hardware, and the data fusion algorithm, and the decision-making algorithm. So all of them. So I think the good thing is, a lot of scientists or the engineers are working on that. So that's a good thing. They're trying to solve the problems out of this, standalone problem, and then integration together. So we hope because the artificial intelligence, especially deep learning, bring a new thinking way and a new tool, to this area. And although it's not always working, but it's began to work, I think. So that's a good thing. And if we were talking back to our spot area, so we're also thinking about the robot should at least penetrate the outer spot, teaching and training area, right? And even take over some task from the human coach or referee, take over some task. So at the same time, and also we are thinking we should add some element to increase the entertainment to our spot, right? The spot, right? Because people like to play video game, right? Everybody like to play video game, but not everybody like to do the physics, right? So we've been thinking about that, how to define the next future of the spot. We call it spot plus, right? That's a good combination from the traditional spot and the e-spot, right? To make a good combination. So that we're trying to do. And rather than the spot, if we're talking about the general purpose of a human-robot interaction, I think we need the robot to have more flexible movement and ultra-fast perception ability, right, for different environment. And I think if we have that kind of technique, we can serve, more things, and such as the industry production, the education, and the medical, treatment, because just like the pandemic thing, right? It really changed our lives, I have to say, right? It really changed. People used to work together and hang out together, right, after work, but right now it's we have to keep a social distance, right, and from each other. But the robot doesn't have to do that, right? Although the pandemic changed the chips, supplies, right? Make the shortage of chips, and the chips price goes higher and higher. But I think it's just a temporary thing. It's not. It's going to back to normal, and in the future, it indeed provide a way for the robot to, that make that come faster, right? We're thinking about already. I think people are already thinking about that, how to work with the robot together, especially in the hospital, right, in the medical care environment, list, right? So I think that's a good thing. It's always problem-driven research and marketing-driven development of the new technique. So I think we're experiencing a good time of talking, at least talking about living with robots, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I think it's I really think it's going to be good, and it's going to be good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that sounds really exciting. And like you said, I think a lot of these ideas and eventual adoption all had to start with talking about it, right? Discussing the possibilities and getting people familiar with the concepts and a little bit more abstract thinking and forward thinking as well. I think there's definitely a lot of development aspects to look forward to in robot and human interaction, right? And also, of course, inculcating the use of robots more and more into different areas of everybody's lives. Like you just mentioned, we see robotics coming into every single industry, or at least every single maybe more important industry globally, right? So I think that's we can only see what will happen in the future as this goes along. And with that, I think we've come to the end of today's dialogue. So thank you both for the very, very interesting insights and thoughts. And I think there was a lot of food for thought, not just for myself, but for the audience as well. And I think we, of course, hope to be able to host both of you at the in-person event in the future and, do a proper introduction as well. And to our overseas audience, we also hope you guys will get the chance to join the Apsara conference in person in the future. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in, and we hope to see everyone again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.